The stars looked different from the observation deck of the horizon. Park Taiho stood alone, watching the endless darkness as the ship moved closer to Nocturi space. He was just an engineer. He fixed broken machines and kept the ship running. He never expected to be part of a diplomatic mission to meet one of the most dangerous species in the galaxy. The Nocturi were ancient. They had lived for thousands of years before humans even discovered fire. They fed on life essence, something like blood, but deeper. The galaxy called them vampires, though they hated that word. They were proud, cold, and powerful. No species had ever formed an alliance with them. Until now. The Galactic Federation wanted to try. "You look nervous," a voice said behind him. Taiho turned to see Kim Yuna walking toward him. She was the communications officer and his closest friend on the ship. Her smile always made him feel calmer. "I am nervous," he admitted. "The Nocturi have killed entire planets. Why would they want peace with us?" Yuna stood beside him and looked at the stars. "Maybe they are tired of being alone. Even monsters get lonely." Taiho laughed softly. "You always find something good in everything." "Someone has to," she replied. The ship's alarm rang 3 times. They had arrived. The Nocturi homeworld was beautiful and terrifying. The sky was permanently dark, filled with purple and red clouds. The buildings rose like black towers, sharp and elegant. Everything looked like it was made from shadow and glass. Captain Han Jiho led the diplomatic team off the ship. Taiho followed at the back, carrying equipment and trying to stay invisible. He was not important. He was just there to fix things if technology failed. The Nocturi court was inside a massive palace. Thousands of them watched as the humans entered. They were tall and pale, with silver or black hair and eyes that glowed faintly in the darkness. They moved without sound like ghosts. Taiho felt their eyes on him. On all the humans. He could sense their judgment. To them, humans were children, weak, short-lived, unworthy of attention. Then he saw her. Princess Valara sat on a throne of dark crystal. She was the most beautiful being Taiho had ever seen, and also the most frightening. Her hair was long and white like moonlight. Her eyes were deep red, cold and empty. She wore black armor that looked like liquid shadow. She did not smile. She did not move. She simply watched. Taiho quickly looked away. Looking at royalty too long was probably a crime here. The banquet began. Nocturi servants brought food and drinks that glowed with strange colors. The human diplomats talked with Nocturi officials, trying to find common ground. Taiho stood near the wall, eating nothing, watching everything. He noticed something strange. One of the Nocturi servants was moving differently than the others. His hands were shaking slightly. His eyes kept looking toward the princess. Taiho felt his stomach turn cold. Something was wrong. The servant suddenly pulled out a blade. It was black and dripping with something that smelled like poison. He ran toward Princess Valara, moving faster than any human could. But Taiho was already moving. He did not think. He did not plan. His body simply acted. He threw himself between the blade and the princess. The knife cut deep into his chest, and pain exploded through his entire body. Taiho fell to the ground. Blood spread across the marble floor. He heard screaming, shouting, chaos. Guards grabbed the assassin. Someone was calling for help. But all Taiho could see was the princess looking down at him. Her cold red eyes were wide with shock. She was staring at him like he was something impossible. A puzzle she could not solve. "Why?" she asked. Her voice was soft but sharp, like frozen silk. Taiho tried to speak, but blood filled his mouth. The poison was spreading fast. He could feel his heart slowing down. "He is dying," someone said. "The poison is void touch. There is no cure." Valara knelt beside him. She grabbed his face with cold hands and looked into his eyes. Taiho did not understand what he saw in her expression. It was not gratitude. It was something more dangerous. Curiosity. "There's one way," she said quietly. "Princess, no." Elder Morn rushed forward. "You cannot bond with this creature. He is human." "He saved my life," Valara replied. "I choose this." Before anyone could stop her, she bit into her own wrist. Silver blood flowed from the wound. She pressed it against Taiho's lips. "Drink," she commanded. Taiho was too weak to refuse. The blood touched his tongue, and everything changed. Power flooded through his body. The poison burned away. His wounds began to close. But something else was happening too. He could feel her. Princess Valara. Her emotions, her thoughts, her ancient and lonely soul. They were connected now, bound together by blood and something deeper. When it was over, Taiho lay on the floor, breathing hard but alive. The entire court was silent. Every Nocturi stared at them with shock and horror. Valara stood slowly. Her face was pale even for her kind. Her hands were trembling. "What have you done?" Elder Morin whispered. Valara did not answer him. She was looking at her hands like they belonged to someone else. Then she looked at Taiho again. "Your blood," she said quietly. "It is different." "Different how?" Captain Jiho demanded, stepping forward. Valara turned to face the crowd. Her voice rang through the silent hall. "In 10,000 years, I have fed on countless species. Their blood tastes like shadows, empty, cold." She paused and looked back at Taiho. "But his blood, it burns. It feels like sunlight. Like fire. Like something I have not felt since I was a child." She touched her chest, right above her heart. "Hope?" she whispered. "His blood tastes like hope." The court erupted into chaos. Nocturi shouted at each other. Some called for Taiho's death. Others demanded answers. The human diplomats looked terrified and confused. But Taiho just lay there, staring at the dark ceiling, feeling the princess's emotions mixing with his own. He had come here as an engineer. Now, he was bonded to the most powerful princess in the galaxy. And somehow, he knew his life would never be simple again. Taiho woke up in a dark room. The ceiling was high and made of black stone. Soft purple light came from crystals on the walls. He tried to sit up, but his body felt strange, different, like something inside him had changed forever. The memories came back slowly. The knife, the blood, the princess. He touched his chest where the blade had cut him. The wound was gone. Not even a scar remained. But he could feel something else now. A presence in the back of his mind. Cold and ancient and watching Valara. He could sense her somewhere in this palace. He could feel her confusion, her anger, her fear. She was afraid of what she had done. Afraid of what it meant. The door opened and Yuna rushed in. Her eyes were red from crying, but she smiled when she saw him awake. "Taiho." She ran to his bed and grabbed his hand. "You scared me so much. I thought you were dead." "I thought I was dead too," Taiho said. His voice sounded strange to his own ears. Deeper somehow. "What happened to you?" Yuna asked. "The Nocturi are going crazy. They keep talking about a blood bond. Some ancient law. Nobody will explain anything to us." Before Taiho could answer, the door opened again. Captain Jiho entered with 2 Nocturi guards behind him. His face was serious and worried. "Park Taiho," he said formally. "You need to come with me. The Nocturi Council wants to see you." "Am I in trouble?" Taiho asked. Jiho did not answer. That was answer enough. The council chamber was enormous. Hundreds of Nocturi sat in floating chairs that circled around a central platform. Taiho stood alone on that platform, feeling like a small animal surrounded by hungry predators. Elder Morin stood at the highest seat. His face showed no emotion, but his eyes were filled with disgust. "Human," he said, "do you understand what has happened to you?" "The princess saved my life," Taiho replied. "She shared her blood with me. She did far more than that." Morin's voice was cold. "She created a soul bond, an unbreakable connection that links two beings forever. It is the most sacred ritual of our people. It is meant only for chosen mates." The chamber filled with angry whispers. Taiho felt his stomach drop. "I did not ask for this," he said. "I was dying. She chose to save me." "Exactly." A new voice cut through the noise. Lord Casson stepped forward. He was tall and handsome, with silver hair and cruel eyes. "The princess made a terrible mistake. She polluted our royal bloodline with this creature." "I am not a creature," Taiho said quietly. Casson laughed. "You are human. You live for what, 80 years? 100 if you are lucky. We live for thousands. You are insects to us. Germs. Nothing." Taiho felt anger rising in his chest. He also felt something else. Valara's anger mixing with his own. She was watching from somewhere. She could feel everything he felt. "If I am nothing," Taiho said, "then why are you so afraid of me?" The chamber went silent. Casson's face twisted with rage. "You dare speak to me like that? I saved your princess from death. I took a poisoned blade that was meant for her." Taiho stood straighter. "What did you do, Lord Casson?" "You sat in your comfortable chair and watched." Casson moved fast. In 1 second, he crossed the entire chamber and grabbed Taiho by the throat. His fingers were like iron, squeezing the life out of him. "I should kill you right now," Casson hissed. "Release him." The voice was soft but carried absolute power. Everyone in the chamber froze. Princess Valara walked down from the shadows. She wore a long black dress that moved like smoke around her. Her red eyes were locked on Casson. "He is bonded to me," Valara said. "Harm him, and you harm me. That is treason." Casson slowly released Taiho's throat. His face was calm, but his eyes were burning with hatred. "This is not over," he whispered to Taiho. Valara stopped beside Taiho. She did not touch him, but he could feel her presence like a cold flame. "I will speak with the human alone," she announced. "Clear the chamber." Nobody dared to argue. Within minutes, Taiho and Valara were alone in the massive room. The silence was heavy. "You should not have spoken to Casson that way," Valara said finally. "He is dangerous." "He was insulting me and my species," Taiho replied. "I will not stay silent while someone calls my people insects." Valara turned to look at him directly. Her face was unreadable. "Why did you save me?" she asked. "You did not know me. You had nothing to gain. Why did you risk your life for a stranger?" Taiho thought about the question. "I do not know. I saw the knife, and I moved. I did not think about reasons." "That is impossible," Valara said. "Every action has a reason. Every choice has a purpose. Maybe for your people. But humans are different. Sometimes we act before we think. Sometimes we do things just because they feel right." Valara studied him like a scientist studying a strange new animal. "Your blood is still inside me. When I taste it, I feel things I have not felt in centuries. Warmth, passion, something that makes my heart beat faster." She paused. "It is uncomfortable." "Sorry," Taiho said, though he was not sure what he was apologizing for. "Do not apologize." Valara stepped closer to him. "I need to understand. Humans live such short lives. You know you will die. You know everything you love will fade. How do you survive with that knowledge? How do you keep going?" Taiho thought carefully before answering. "Because the ending makes everything more precious. A flower that lives forever means nothing. But a flower that blooms only once, for a short time, is beautiful because it will not last. We love harder, fight harder, and feel deeper because we know our time is limited. Something changed in Valara's eyes. The coldness cracked, just a little. That is either very wise or very foolish, she said. Probably both, Taiho admitted. For the first time, Valara almost smiled. It was small and quick, but it was real. Then her expression became serious again. Lord Casson will demand your execution. He will say you corrupted me. Many will agree with him. What happens then? There will be a trial. The Blood Council will decide your fate. Valara looked away. I cannot protect you. By our laws, I must remain neutral. Taiho felt fear, but he pushed it down. Then I will face the trial. You do not understand. No human has ever stood before the Blood Council. They will not show mercy. Then I will show them something better than mercy. Taiho met her eyes. I will show them that humans are not weak, that we are worth respecting. Valara stared at him for a long moment. Through their bond, Taiho felt something he did not expect from her. Admiration. You are strange, Park Taiho, she said softly. Very strange indeed. She turned and walked away, leaving him alone in the darkness. But Taiho could still feel her presence in his mind. Cold and ancient and lonely dot, and somewhere deep inside that coldness, a tiny spark of warmth was beginning to grow. The day of the trial arrived like a storm. Taiho stood in the center of a massive arena. Thousands of Nocturi filled the seats above him, their glowing eyes watching his every move. The air was cold and heavy with judgment. He wore simple clothes. No armor, no weapons. He was just a human standing alone against an empire. Elder Morin sat at the highest platform with the other members of the Blood Council. Lord Kaysen stood below them, dressed in ceremonial robes, ready to demand Taiho's death. This trial will now begin, Morin announced. His voice echoed through the arena like thunder. The human called Park Taiho stands accused of corrupting royal blood. The punishment for this crime is death. The crowd cheered. They wanted blood. They wanted to see the weak human destroyed. Taiho kept his face calm. Through the bond, he could feel Valara watching from somewhere above. She was afraid for him. She was also proud that he was not showing fear. Kassan stepped forward with a cold smile. Members of the Blood Council, the evidence is clear. This human used trickery to bond with our beloved princess. He has stolen something sacred. He has insulted our entire civilization. I saved her life, Taiho said loudly. Is that an insult? Silence. Kassan snapped. You do not have permission to speak. Then give me permission. Taiho looked directly at Elder Morin. Your law says the accused can defend himself. I'm asking for that right. Morin studied him with cold eyes. After a long moment, he nodded. The human may speak. The arena fell silent. Everyone waited to see what the small, weak human would say. Taiho took a deep breath. He thought about his home, his family. Every human who had ever lived and died and fought for something better. He was not just speaking for himself. He was speaking for all of them. You call me weak, he began. You say humans are insects, that we live short lives and mean nothing. Maybe you are right. We only live for 100 years. Your children are older than our entire civilization. Kassan smiled, thinking Taiho was giving up. But let me tell you something about those 100 years. Taiho's voice grew stronger. 10,000 years ago, humans lived in caves. We ate raw meat and feared the dark. We had nothing. No power, no technology, no magic. He looked around the arena at the ancient, powerful beings who wanted him dead. And yet, here I am, standing in your court, traveling through your stars. Your species took millions of years to reach space. We did it in 10,000. While you were building the same empire, century after century, we were constantly changing, constantly growing, constantly becoming something new. The whispers started again, but this time they sounded different. Curious instead of angry. You ask why I saved your princess. The answer is simple. That is what humans do. We protect the people around us. We sacrifice ourselves for others. Not because we will live forever, but because we know we will not. Taiho stepped closer to the council platform. Guards moved toward him, but Morin raised a hand to stop them. You think emotions make us weak. You think love and fear and hope are diseases. But they are not. They are our greatest power. Every great human achievement came from emotion. We built cities because we loved our families. We explored space because we hoped for something better. We fought wars because we feared losing what we cared about. He pointed at the silent crowd. Look at yourselves. You have lived for thousands of years, but what have you done with that time? You sit in the same chairs. You follow the same laws. You feel nothing and change nothing. You are mortal, but you are not alive. The arena erupted. Some Nocturi shouted in anger. Others sat in stunned silence. Kaysen's face was red with rage. You dare lecture us? Kaysen screamed. You are nothing. Less than nothing. Then why are you so afraid? Taiho asked calmly. If I am nothing, why does my existence make you so angry? Why does a bond with one human shake your entire empire? Kaysen moved toward Taiho, his hands reaching for his throat again. But Elder Morin's voice stopped him. Enough. The old Nocturi stood slowly. His face was thoughtful, not angry. The human has spoken well, Morin said. Better than many Nocturi have spoken before this council. But words do not prove worth. Any creature can speak. Taiho felt his hope begin to fade. However, Morin continued, there is a way to prove worth through action. The ancient trial. The crucible of shadows. The entire arena gasped. Even Kaysen looked shocked. The crucible has not been used in 500 years, Kaysen said. It is too dangerous. Many Nocturi warriors have died inside. Then it will be a true test, Morin replied. If the human survives, he proves his worth. If he dies, the bond dies with him and the princess is freed. He looked at Taiho. Do you accept this trial, human? Taiho felt cold fear spreading through his body. He did not know what the crucible of shadows was, but he understood it was terrible. Through the bond, he felt Valara's panic. She was trying to stop this. She was arguing with the council members around her, but Taiho also understood something else. This was his only chance. If he refused, they would simply execute him. At least the crucible gave him a possibility of survival. I accept, he said. No. Valara's voice rang through the arena. She pushed through the crowd and jumped down to the arena floor. Her face was twisted with anger and fear. You cannot do this, she said to Morin. I did not consent to this trial. He is bonded to me. I should have a choice. The bond was your choice, princess, Morin replied calmly. Now he must prove he deserves it. Valara turned to Taiho. For the first time, she grabbed his hands. Her fingers were cold, but her grip was tight. You will die in there, she whispered. The crucible destroys the mind. It feeds on fear and despair. No human can survive it. Taiho looked into her red eyes. He could feel her emotions clearly now. She cared about him. She did not want to admit it, but she cared. Maybe no human has tried before, he said softly. Maybe it is time someone did. Why? Valara's voice cracked. Why would you throw your life away? Because if I run, humans will always be seen as weak. As cowards. As insects. Taiho squeezed her hands gently. I will not let that happen. Not for me. Not for you. Not for anyone who comes after me. Valara stared at him. A single silver tear rolled down her pale cheek. You really are strange, Park Taiho, she whispered. So I have been told. Taiho released her hands and turned to face the council. The arena was silent now. Even his enemies were watching with something that looked like respect. When does the trial begin? He asked. Elder Morin stood. Tomorrow at midnight. May the shadows judge you fairly, human. Taiho nodded. He had one night left. One night to prepare for something that had killed warriors with centuries of training. But as he walked out of the arena, he felt something through the bond. Valara's presence in his mind was stronger now, warmer. She was with him, and somehow, that made everything a little less frightening. The entrance to the Crucible of Shadows looked like a wound in reality. It was a doorway made of pure darkness, floating in the center of an ancient temple. Strange whispers came from inside, voices that sounded almost human but wrong in terrible ways. Taiho stood before it, wearing simple white clothes. No weapons, no tools. The crucible tested the mind, not the body. He would either survive with his sanity or be destroyed completely. The arena was filled again. Every Nocturi wanted to watch the human fail. Lord Casson sat in the front row, smiling with cruel anticipation. But Taiho was not looking at them. He was looking at Valara Dot. She stood near the doorway, her face pale and worried. Through their bond, he could feel her fear. She had spent the entire night trying to stop this trial. She had failed. Now all she could do was watch. The rules are simple, Elder Morin announced. Enter the Crucible. Survive until dawn. If you emerge alive, you prove your worth. If you die inside, your bond with the princess ends forever. How long until dawn? Taiho asked. 6 hours. 6 hours in a nightmare dimension that had killed ancient warriors in minutes. Taiho almost laughed at the impossibility of it. Any advice? He asked Valara quietly. She stepped closer to him. Her eyes were wet with silver tears she was trying to hide. The crucible feeds on fear, she whispered. It creates visions from your worst memories, your deepest terrors. The Nocturi survive by suppressing emotion, by becoming empty inside. She paused. But you cannot do that. You are human. You feel everything. So I will die. I do not know. Valara reached out and touched his chest, right above his heart. But whatever happens in there, remember this. You are not alone. I will be with you through the bond. I will feel everything you feel. I will fight beside you, even if I cannot be there in body. Taiho covered her hand with his own. Thank you. Do not thank me yet. A tiny smile crossed her face. Thank me when you survive. The temple bells rang. It was time. Taiho turned and walked toward the dark doorway. Each step felt heavier than the last. The whispers grew louder, promising pain and madness. He stepped through. The world disappeared. Taiho found himself standing in complete darkness. There was no floor, no sky, no anything. Just endless black voids stretching in all directions. Then the visions began. He saw his mother dying in a hospital bed. The cancer had taken her slowly, piece by piece, while young Taiho watched helplessly. The memory was 20 years old, but it felt like yesterday. The pain was fresh and sharp. You could not save her, a voice whispered from the darkness. You were too weak, too small, too useless. Taiho felt tears on his face. The vision was so real. He could smell the hospital. He could hear the machines beeping. He could feel his mother's cold hand in his. She died because of you, the voice continued. Everyone you love will die because of you. You cannot protect anyone. You are nothing. The fear and guilt crashed over him like ocean waves. Taiho fell to his knees, gasping for air. The darkness was pressing against his mind, trying to crush him. This was how it killed. Not with claws or fire, but with truth. With memory. With the terrible weight of every failure and loss a person had ever experienced. Taiho closed his eyes. He thought about his mother again. Not her death, but her life. Her smile. Her laugh. The way she would hold him when he was scared. She taught me something, Taiho whispered. She taught me that love is stronger than death. That the people we lose live on inside us. That fear is just a shadow, and shadows disappear when you find the light. The vision flickered. You cannot escape, the voice hissed. Your emotions make you weak. They will destroy you. No. Taiho stood slowly. His legs were shaking, but his voice was steady. My emotions make me human. And being human is my greatest strength. He remembered every time he had been afraid and kept going anyway. Every time he had been hurt and stood back up. Every time the universe had told him he was too small, too weak, too mortal to matter, and he had proven it wrong. You want to feed on my fear? Taiho said to the darkness. Then feed on this. He thought about the people who needed him. Yuna on the horizon, waiting for him to come back. Captain Jiho, who had become like a father. And Valara. Cold, ancient Valara, who was finally learning to feel again because of him. His fear transformed. It became something else. Something the Crucible had never tasted before. Courage. Not the absence of fear, but the choice to move forward despite it. The darkness screamed. New visions attacked him. His father telling him he would never amount to anything. Bullies from his childhood. Every person who had ever made him feel worthless. But Taiho did not fight them. He accepted them. Yes, he said. I have been hurt. I have been broken. I have failed more times than I can count. He smiled through his tears. But I am still here. I am still standing. And I will never, ever give up. Hours passed. The Crucible threw everything it had at him. Physical pain. Emotional torture. Visions of everyone he loved dying in horrible ways. It tried to convince him that life was meaningless, that hope was a lie, that the only escape was surrender. Taiho kept going. He walked through the darkness, step by step, turning every attack into fuel. His despair became determination. His loneliness became connection to everyone he loved. His fear of death became appreciation for life. The shadow creatures that lived in the Crucible began to avoid him. They were used to feeding on victims who ran and screamed and gave in to despair. They had never encountered someone who embraced his pain and transformed it into power. Through the bond, Taiho felt Valara. She was experiencing everything with him, crying with him, fighting with him. For the first time in centuries, she was truly alive. Finally, after what felt like forever, Taiho saw something in the distance. A small point of light. He ran toward it. His body was exhausted. His mind was pushed to its limits. But he ran. The darkness tried to grab him. Hands made of shadow reached for his legs, his arms, his heart. The whispers became screams, demanding that he stop, that he surrender, that he accept the emptiness. I am part Taiho, he shouted. I am human. I am mortal. I am afraid. And I am still running. He burst through the doorway and collapsed onto the temple floor. The arena was silent. Taiho lay there, bleeding from wounds he did not remember receiving, his body broken in a dozen places. But he was breathing. He was alive. He had been inside for 6 hours and 12 minutes. Longer than most Nocturi warriors had ever survived. Slowly, painfully, he pushed himself up and looked at the crowd. Nobody moved. Nobody spoke. Even Lord Casson was staring at him with an expression that might have been shock or fear or something in between. Then Valara was there. She caught him before he fell. Her cold arms wrapped around him, holding him tight. Silver tears streamed down her face. "You impossible, stubborn, beautiful fool," she whispered. "You actually did it." "Told you," Taiho said weakly. "Humans are tougher than we look." Through their bond, he felt something new from Valara. Something she had not felt in a very long time. Hope and love. As consciousness faded, Taiho smiled. He had proven himself. He had faced the darkness and won. Now the real battle could begin. Taiho woke up in Valara's private chambers. The room was dark and beautiful, filled with crystals that glowed with soft blue light. He was lying on a bed made of something softer than any material he had ever felt. His body still hurt, but the worst wounds were healed. Nocturi medicine was incredibly advanced. 3 days of treatment had repaired damage that would have taken humans months to heal. Valara sat beside his bed, reading from an ancient book. When she saw his eyes open, she closed the book and looked at him. "You slept for 3 days," she said. "The healers were not sure you would wake up." "Takes more than a nightmare dimension to kill me," Taiho replied weakly. "Apparently so." Valara almost smiled. "The Empire is talking about nothing else. A human surviving the Crucible longer than most Nocturi warriors. It is unprecedented. Good unprecedented or bad unprecedented?" "Both." Valara stood and walked to the window. The view showed the dark cityscape of the Nocturi homeworld, towers stretching toward a starless sky. "Some see you as a miracle. Proof that the younger species are not as worthless as we believed. Others see you as a threat, a sign that our empire is weakening." "Let me guess," Taiho said. "Lord Kassan is in the second group. Kassan is planning something. I can feel it, but I cannot prove anything." Valara's hands tightened on the window frame. "He wants the throne. He has always wanted it, and he will not let a human stand in his way." Taiho slowly sat up. His muscles screamed in protest, but he ignored the pain. "Then we need to be ready for whatever he does. We?" Valara turned to look at him. "You nearly died 3 days ago. The smart choice would be to return to your human ship and leave this place forever. Is that what you want?" Taiho asked quietly. "For me to leave?" The question hung in the air between them. Through their bond, Taiho felt Valara's emotions churning: fear, doubt, and something else she was trying very hard to hide. "What I want does not matter," she said finally. "I am a princess. My duty is to my people." That is not an answer. Valara looked away. When she spoke again, her voice was softer. "Before you, I had not felt anything real in 300 years. I went through the motions of living, but I was empty inside, dead while still breathing." She paused. "Then I tasted your blood, and everything changed. Colors became brighter. Music became sweeter. I started to remember what it felt like to be alive." She walked back to the bed and sat beside him. Her red eyes met his. "You asked what I want. I want you to stay. I want to understand how you make me feel things I thought I had forgotten forever. I want—" She stopped, struggling with words that did not come easily. "I want to not be alone anymore." Taiho reached out and took her cold hand. "Then I will stay, even if it means more danger, more trials, more people trying to kill you. I have already died once and came back. How much worse can it get?" Valara laughed softly. It was a beautiful sound, like ice melting in spring. But their moment was interrupted by loud bells ringing across the city. Both of them looked toward the window. The bells meant an emergency. Something terrible had happened. Yuna burst through the door minutes later. Her face was pale with shock. "The Emperor," she gasped. "He has been poisoned." Taiho and Valara rushed to the throne room. Guards filled every corner. Healers surrounded a large bed where the Nocturi Emperor lay motionless. He was ancient beyond imagining, his face like carved marble, his silver hair spreading across the pillows. He was not dead, but he was close. What happened? Valara demanded. Elder Morin stepped forward. His face was grim. Poison in his evening drink. We do not know how it passed our security, but we found this. He held up a small container. Taiho recognized it immediately. It was a human medical vial. This was found in the human's quarters, Morin said. In the room where Park Taiho was staying before he moved to your chambers, Princess. Taiho's blood went cold. That is not mine. I have never seen that before. The evidence suggests otherwise. Lord Kaysen stepped from the shadows, his face arranged in perfect false sympathy. It seems the human survival of the Crucible made him overconfident. He tried to kill our beloved Emperor and take power through his bond with the princess. That is insane. Yima shouted. Taiho was unconscious for 3 days. He could not have poisoned anyone. Perhaps he had help, Kaysen said smoothly. Perhaps the other humans on that ship are part of this conspiracy. Captain Jiho stepped forward, his hand on his weapon. You will not touch my crew. The tension in the room was explosive. Nocturi guards surrounded the humans. The human diplomats reached for their own weapons. One wrong move and war would begin. Taiho stepped between them. Wait, everyone wait. He looked at the poison container, then at Kaysen's satisfied face, then at the Emperor's dying form. His engineer's mind started working, seeing patterns that others missed. When was the Emperor poisoned? He asked. We estimate 8 hours ago, a healer replied. And when was the vial found in my old room? 2 hours ago. Taiho nodded slowly. The vial is too clean. If I had used it to poison someone 8 hours ago, it would have residue inside. But look at it. It is perfectly empty. Too perfectly. He turned to Morin. Someone planted this evidence. They wanted you to find it at exactly the right moment. Kaysen's smile flickered. You are grasping at shadows, human. Am I? Taiho walked toward him. You were very quick to arrive at the scene, Lord Kaysen. Almost as if you were expecting this to happen. And you immediately blame me without any investigation. Why? Because the evidence is clear. The evidence was manufactured. Taiho looked at the guards. Check Lord Kaysen's private chambers. Check his servants. Check everyone he spoke to in the last 24 hours. I bet you will find the real source of that poison. You have no authority to make such accusations. Kaysen screamed. His calm mask was breaking. No, Valara said coldly. But I do. She stepped forward, and suddenly the entire room felt smaller. The princess was not just a beautiful face. She was the heir to an empire, and her power was immense. Search Lord Kaysen's chambers, she commanded. Now, an hour later, the guards returned. They brought boxes filled with evidence. Secret communications with enemies of the Empire. Payments to assassins. Plans to claim the throne after the Emperor's death. And most damning of all, another vial of the same poison hidden in Kaysen's private safe. Kaysen's face turned white, then red with rage. He reached for a weapon, but guards grabbed him before he could move. This is treason, he screamed. I am royal blood. You cannot do this to me. You tried to kill my father, Valara said quietly. Her voice was ice. You tried to frame an innocent man. You tried to start a war between our species. She stepped closer to him. Give me one reason why I should not end you right now. Kaysen looked at Taiho with pure hatred. This is your fault. You poisoned her mind. You made her weak. No, Taiho said. She was always strong. She just forgot for a while. Kaysen was dragged away to the prison. The Emperor, thanks to the healers identifying the poison quickly, would survive. The crisis was over, but Valara was not finished. She stood in the center of the throne room and looked at everyone present. Nocturi nobles, human diplomats, guards and servants and healers. Listen to me, she said. Her voice carried absolute authority. Today, a human saved my father's life. A human saw through a conspiracy that our own people missed. A human has proven his worth again and again. She reached out and took Taiho's hand in front of everyone. This man is Park Taiho. He is bonded to me by blood and by choice. He has survived the crucible. He has saved my life and my father's life. And from this moment forward, anyone who challenges him challenges me. She looked directly at the shocked Nocturi nobles. This human is my chosen, my bonded, my future consort. Her red eyes blazed with power. Any who disagree may speak now, or be silent forever. Nobody said a word. Taiho stood frozen, still holding Valara's hand. Through their bond, he felt her determination, her pride, and beneath it all, a warmth that was growing stronger every day. She had just declared him as her future husband in front of the entire empire. And somehow, impossibly, he was not afraid at all. Valara's declaration split the empire in two. Half of the Nocturi saw her choice as a new beginning. They had watched Taiho survive the crucible. They had seen him save the emperor. They believed that maybe, after thousands of years of isolation, it was time for change. The other half refused to accept a human in the royal bloodline. Lord Casson escaped from prison on the third night. His supporters attacked the guards and freed him. By morning, he had gathered an army of traditional Nocturi houses who shared his hatred for outsiders. War had begun. The empire burned. Battles erupted across a dozen star systems. Ships that had fought together for millennia now fired on each other. Brother killed brother. Families split apart. It was the bloodiest conflict the Nocturi had seen in 1,000 years. And at the center of it all stood Taiho. He stood in the command room of the royal palace, surrounded by holographic maps showing the positions of both fleets. Valara was beside him, along with her military advisors and the human crew of the Horizon. "We are losing," one advisor said grimly. "Kayson's forces control 6 systems. Ours control 5. The remaining 3 are contested. He has more ships," another added. "More soldiers. More resources. At this rate, he will reach the homeworld within 2 weeks." Valara's face was stone. "Then we need a new strategy." "What strategy?" The advisor shook his head. "We are outmatched in every way." "No," Taiho said quietly. "Not every way." Everyone turned to look at him. The Nocturi advisors still had trouble accepting input from a human, but Valara had made it clear that his voice mattered. "Kayson's forces are powerful, but they are predictable," Taiho continued. "They fight the way Nocturi have always fought. Direct attacks. Overwhelming force. No tricks, no deception, no adaptation. That is the way of war," an advisor said stiffly. "That is one way of war." Taiho walked to the holographic map and pointed at several locations. "Humans have fought wars for thousands of years with fewer resources than our enemies. We learned something important. When you cannot win with strength, you win with cleverness." He began explaining tactics that humans had developed over centuries. Guerrilla warfare, hit and run attacks, psychological operations, supply line disruption, making the enemy think you are weak until you are strong enough to strike. The Nocturi listened with a mixture of confusion and fascination. These were not honorable tactics. They were not the way of ancient warriors, but they might work. "This is madness," one advisor said. "We cannot hide and run like cowards." "Is it cowardice to save lives?" Taiho asked. "Is it weakness to fight smart instead of fighting hard?" Every soldier who dies in a useless attack is a soldier who cannot protect their family later. Every ship we lose in a direct battle is a ship we cannot use to defend the homeworld. Valara stepped forward. We will try the humans' approach. Begin preparations immediately. The advisors looked uncertain, but they obeyed. When the princess spoke, her word was law. Over the next week, Taiho trained Nocturi commanders in human tactics. It was difficult. They were proud warriors who had never retreated in their lives. The concept of losing a battle to win a war seemed impossible to them, but slowly, they began to understand. The first test came at the 7th moon of Karos. Kaysen's fleet outnumbered Valara's forces 3-1. A direct battle would be suicide. Instead, Taiho suggested something different. They hid their ships behind asteroids and in sensor dead zones. They sent out fake signals to make Kasen think their fleet was somewhere else. When Kaysen's forces spread out to search for them, Valara's ships struck at isolated targets, destroying supply vessels and communication relays, before disappearing again. Kasen lost 12 ships without ever engaging the main enemy fleet. He was furious. His commanders were confused. How could a force they outnumbered so badly be causing this much damage? The answer was Taiho. News of the human strategist spread through both sides of the war. Some Nocturi began calling him the Shadow Blade. Others called him the Poison Whisper. Kasen simply called him a cheating coward who fought without honor. But the results spoke for themselves. Week after week, Kaysen's advantages shrank. His supplies ran low. His soldiers grew frustrated. His commanders argued with each other about how to fight an enemy who refused to face them directly. Meanwhile, something unexpected happened on the human side. Yuna managed to send a message to Earth. The Federation Council watched recordings of the war. They saw Taiho leading Nocturi forces. They saw a human making a difference in an alien conflict, and they made a decision. The day the human fleet arrived was the turning point of the war. 50 Federation warships dropped out of hyperspace near the Nocturi homeworld. They were smaller than Nocturi vessels, less advanced, less powerful. But there were many of them, and they carried something the Nocturi had never seen before. Hope from the stars. Captain Jiho led the fleet. He stood on the bridge of the lead ship and opened a channel to Valara's command center. The Galactic Federation has voted, he announced. Humanity stands with Princess Valara and her chosen consort. We offer our ships, our soldiers, and our support. Taiho felt tears in his eyes. He had thought he was alone. He had thought humanity might abandon him to fight this war by himself. But they had come. They had chosen to stand beside him. Valara took his hand and squeezed it gently. Through their bond, he felt her overwhelming emotion, gratitude, pride, and love. The combined human and Nocturi fleet met Kaysen's forces at the edge of silence, an ancient battlefield where the first Nocturi wars had been fought. It was the largest space battle in recorded galactic history. Human ships fought alongside Nocturi cruisers. Federation soldiers used their adaptable tactics, while Nocturi warriors used their ancient power. Two species that had never trusted each other were now defending each other. Taiho commanded from Valara's flagship, coordinating movements between both fleets. It was chaos and beauty combined. Ships exploded like new stars. Energy weapons painted the void with light. Thousands of lives ended in seconds, but slowly, impossibly, they began to win. Kaysen's traditional tactics could not handle the combined approach. When he attacked with overwhelming force, the humans scattered and struck from behind. When he tried to chase the humans, the Nocturi hit him from the front. He was fighting two enemies who moved as one. His fleet crumbled. His allies surrendered. His commanders fled. Finally, only Kaysen's personal flagship remained, surrounded by hundreds of enemy ships. "It is over," Valara said. "Order your forces to stand down." Kaysen's face appeared on the main screen. He looked broken, defeated, but his eyes still burned with hatred. "You have won nothing," he spat. "I may die today, but the old ways will return. Your human pet will grow old and die in a blink of our immortal eyes. And then you will remember why we stayed alone, why we never trusted the lesser species." "You are wrong," Taiho replied. "I may die, but what we built will last. Humans and Nocturi fighting together, trusting together. That is the future, and you cannot stop it." Kaizen's face twisted. "Then I will take you with me." His ship's engines flared. He was heading toward the ancient temple on the Nocturi homeworld, the place where the first Nocturi had evolved, the place where, according to legend, a weapon was hidden that could destroy entire fleets. "He's going to activate the Blood Star," Valara whispered. Her face went pale. "It is a weapon from our darkest age. It was sealed away for a reason. If he uses it, then we stop him." Taiho stood. "Can you get me there?" Valara looked at him with fear and love and desperation. "Taiho, this is suicide. Even if we reach the temple, the weapon requires a massive sacrifice of life essence to activate. Kaizen will be protected by his remaining guards. You cannot fight them alone. I will not be alone." Taiho touched her face gently. "I have you." Valara closed her eyes. When she opened them, they were filled with determination. "Then, let us finish this together." The ancient temple rose from the dark mountains like a giant's tomb. It was older than recorded history, built when the Nocturi were still young and savage. Strange symbols covered every surface, warning visitors of the power sleeping within. Taiho, Valara, Yuna, and a small team of soldiers approached the entrance. The air was thick with dread. Even the bravest warriors felt fear pressing against their minds. "Kaizen's guards are inside," one scout reported. "At least 50. They are protecting the path to the central chamber." Valara nodded. "We fight through." The battle inside the temple was brutal. The narrow corridors made their numbers meaningless. Every corner brought new enemies. Soldiers fell on both sides. Taiho fought beside Valara, using weapons she had given him and training from countless hours of practice. He was not as strong as a Nocturi, but he was faster than they expected. He fought with human unpredictability, doing things no ancient warrior would ever do. Yuna watched his back, firing her energy pistol with perfect accuracy. She had always been the best shot on the horizon. Now that skill was saving lives. They pushed deeper into the temple, leaving bodies behind them. Finally, they reached the central chamber dot. It was vast, carved from a single piece of black crystal. In the center sat a machine that looked almost alive. Veins of red energy pulsed through it like blood through a heart. This was the Blood Star weapon, and standing before it was Lord Kaizen. He looked terrible. His fine clothes were torn. His silver hair was messy and stained with blood. But he was smiling. "You are too late," he said. "The weapon is awakening." The machine pulsed faster. The red energy grew brighter. A terrible hum filled the chamber, shaking the walls. "It requires a sacrifice of pure life essence to activate completely," Kaizen continued. "I planned to use the princess. But now that you are here, I have a better idea." He moved faster than Taiho's eyes could follow. In one moment, he was across the room. In the next, his hand was around Valara's throat. "Your bond makes her life essence stronger than ever," Kaizen hissed. "Perfect fuel for the Blood Star." He threw her toward the machine. Tendrils of red energy reached out and grabbed her, pulling her against its surface. Valara screamed as her life force began draining into the weapon. Nitrogen monoxide. Taiho ran forward. Kaizen caught him easily, throwing him across the chamber. Taiho hit the wall and felt something break inside him. Pain exploded through his body. "Stay down, human," Kaizen said. Watch your precious princess die. Watch the weapon destroy your pathetic fleet. And know that you could not save anyone. Through the bond, Taiho felt Valara's agony. She was dying. Her thousands of years of life were being sucked into the machine. She had minutes left at most. Yuna and the remaining soldiers tried to attack, but Kassan defeated them effortlessly. He was powered by rage and desperation, stronger than ever before. Taiho lay on the cold floor, broken and bleeding. He could not move. He could not fight. All he could do was watch the woman he loved die. Then he felt something strange. The bond between them went both ways. If the machine was draining Valara's life force, could he give her some of his? Could human life essence, with all its passion and hope and stubborn will to survive, flow the other direction? He closed his eyes and focused on the connection. He thought about everything he felt for Valara. His love, his admiration, his desperate need to protect her. He pushed all of it through the bond, sending his own life energy into her. Valara gasped. The drain slowed. Through the bond, she felt what he was doing. Taiho, stop. You will kill yourself. Then I will die for you, he replied. That seems fair. You saved me once. Now I save you. He pushed harder. His heart began to slow. His vision went dark at the edges. He was dying, willingly feeding his life into the bond to give her strength. But something unexpected happened. The machine began to react strangely. It was designed to consume cold Nocturi life force. It had never tasted human essence before. The raw emotion, the burning hope, the fierce love that Taiho was sending through Valara was like poison to its ancient systems. The blood star began to overload. What is happening? Kassan screamed. The machine was shaking, cracking. Red energy exploded in random directions. The tendrils holding Valara released her. She fell to the ground, weak but alive. The weapon that was supposed to destroy was now doing something else. A wave of psychic energy exploded outward from the blood star. It passed through the temple, through the city, through the entire planet. It spread across the stars, touching every Nocturi in the Empire. And everywhere it touched, the cold barrier inside them cracked. Nocturi soldiers stopped fighting and fell to their knees, overwhelmed by emotions they had suppressed for centuries. They wept, they laughed, they embraced each other. Thousands of years of emptiness broke open in a single moment. The blood star was never truly a weapon. It was a healing device from an ancient age, twisted by generations of fear into something terrible. Taiho's human essence had reminded it of its original purpose. Instead of destroying, it awakened. Kassan stood frozen, staring at his hands as tears streamed down his face. Emotions he had never allowed himself to feel crashed over him like an ocean. Guilt for the lives he had taken. Shame for his ambition. Grief for the person he could have been. What have you done? He whispered. Valara stood slowly. She walked toward him, her own face wet with silver tears. But her tears were different. They were relief and joy and love. We showed you what you forgot, she said softly. What we all forgot. That life without feeling is not life at all. Kassan collapsed. The fight left him completely. He was not a monster anymore. He was just a broken man who had lost his way centuries ago. Imprison him, Valara ordered. But do not harm him. He will face justice when the Empire is healed. She turned and rushed to Taiho. He was lying still on the ground, barely breathing. He had given too much of himself. His heart was failing. His life was fading. No, Valara whispered. She held him in her arms, pressing her hands against his chest. You cannot leave me. Not now. Not after everything. Through the bond, Taiho felt her love wrapping around him like a warm blanket. He was so tired, so ready to let go. Stay, Valara begged. Please, I just learned how to feel again. Do not make me feel this loss. Taiho opened his eyes weakly. I do not regret anything. I know. That is why I love you. She bit her wrist and pressed it to his lips. Her blood flowed into him, stronger than before, filled with the emotions the blood star had awakened. This was not just a bond anymore. This was something new. Taiho felt life returning. His wounds healed. His heart began beating strongly again. The connection between them grew deeper than ever before. He was alive. They were together. The war was over. 1 year later, the galaxy watched something it had never seen before. A wedding between a human and a Budsi watched when in a day. Nocturi princess. The ceremony was held in the rebuilt temple. The same place where the blood star had awakened was now decorated with flowers and light. Representatives from every species in the Galactic Federation attended. Human musicians played alongside Nocturi singers. Taiho stood at the altar, wearing formal clothes that mixed human and Nocturi styles. Beside him was Yuna as his witness. She was crying happy tears. When Valara appeared, the crowd fell silent with wonder. She wore white instead of black. Her dress flowed like liquid starlight. Her red eyes were warm now, filled with emotions she no longer hid. She was still ancient and powerful, but she was also alive in a way she had not been for centuries. They spoke vows in both languages. Human promises of love and Nocturi bonds of blood. When they kissed, the crowd erupted in cheers. Later, in a quiet moment, Valara offered Taiho something. My blood can give you immortality, she said. You could live forever. You would never have to leave me. Taiho thought about it. Forever sounded wonderful. Centuries with the woman he loved. But then he shook his head. No, he said softly. If I live forever, I will become like you used to be. Slow and cold and empty. The reason I am who I am is because my time is limited. Every day matters because there are only so many. Valara looked sad but understanding. Then I will watch you grow old and die. Yes, Taiho took her hands. But you will remember how to live because of me. You will feel everything more deeply because you know it ends. That is my gift to you. He smiled and touched her face. You have forever. Let me teach you how to live like you do not. Valara pulled him close and held him tight. Through their bond, he felt her acceptance, her love, and her gratitude. In the years that followed, the galaxy changed. The Nocturi joined the Federation. Humans were no longer seen as weak or insignificant. They were recognized as essential, the species that burned brightest and loved hardest. Park Taiho became a legend. The human who faced the darkness and won. The man who taught an ancient empire to feel again. The prince consort who proved that mortality was not a weakness but a gift. And every night, for as long as he lived, he watched the stars with his immortal wife and reminded her of the most important truth in the universe. Life is precious because it ends. Love is beautiful because it risks loss. And humanity, small and brief and burning with passion, was exactly what the cold ancient galaxy needed. The end.